Sunday night in the Man Cave Studios. What else? Where else could you be? It is a fantastic Sunday night. A little warm, but we now know where everything stands as of right now, going into trade deadline weekend. Week ahead. The trade deadline is upon us. Will the Tigers deal Skubal? Can they get the pieces that they need? We'll find out by the end of this week. But the Tigers fall to the Royals. Oh. The Guardians get stung by the Devil Rays this weekend, while the Redlegs battle it out against a divisional foe, and the Mudhens continue their winning ways at Fifth Third Field with a Tiger that's on a rehab assignment. A young 21-year-old kid wins the 3M Open, and now we turn our attention to Detroit, not just for the Tigers, but for the final PGA event as of right now on the schedule. The ladies are over in Scotland. They get ready for the British Open, which is this week. Jet Greaves and Cole Sillinger sign with the Jackets. Huge signing. And they get away with arbitration. Thank God. While we wait for Dylan Larkin and the talk of Kirill Marchenko heading out of Columbus is imminent in some estimates. We'll talk about that. And yet again, we got hoodwinked by the piece of dirt. We did not do a show on Thursday, but there is no folding like the Roller Hockey League in Toledo. And I'll get my opinion about that tonight on this edition of All Andy Alfred. And with that, I say, I love you guys. And welcome in to another edition of All Andy Alfred right here on your exclusive home for me. And that is with the All Andy Alfred Podcast Network, whether it be on Apple Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Bleaker, however you're listening to us, wherever and whenever you're listening to us. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast tonight, as always. And you can always follow our show by following us on Twitter. It is at All Andy Alfred. It is at All Andy Alfred, as well as Facebook.com/All Andy Alfred. And yes, we do air this podcast. We tape it. We tape it right here. And you send it over to YouTube so you can watch my facial reactions and my opinions right here on the All Andy Alfred podcast on YouTube, on youtube.com/All Andy Alfred. So welcome to the podcast tonight on this, the 26th day of July, 2026. Merry Christmas in July to all those who do celebrate. And it is truly a pleasure to be with you tonight. Of course, we're going to get into our Andy rants later tonight about the failure of the Roller Hockey League. We'll talk about that. Also, we'll dive into what we found in Mac Media Day as well with our Bowling Green State University Falcon football team, and how I think that a lot of the coaches are going to get it wrong this year. We'll talk about that. Also, we'll dive into the signing of Jet Greaves and Cole Sillinger. They beat arbitration. They get the contract, 3-year deals. We'll talk about that as well. And we'll dive into, of course, the race in baseball with the Mudhens, the Tigers getting ready for a big series against Baltimore, and the Battle of Ohio, which will start tomorrow evening in Cincinnati. And we'll talk all about that here in just a few minutes, right here on the All Andy Alfred Podcast Network. And like I said, you can be a part of the show by following us on Twitter. It is at All Andy Alfred, as well as Facebook.com/All Andy Alfred. So again, want to get into it, of course. We are still doing these shows we'll do a show every Sunday night right here on the for our podcast to recap the weekend that was, and we'll continue doing this all the way up until we get to football season. And when football season begins, we will go back to doing our Falcon Friday editions as well as doing our show on Tuesday night to recap the weekend that was. So we'll have our Falcon Friday editions on Facebook as well as on our Facebook account on Falcon Fridays, but we'll still have it taped for you guys through the plethora of platforms, which is all Andy Alfred. Gotta tell you this, first and foremost, I want to give a couple shout outs really quickly. I want to give a shout out to all the volunteers at OLPH, Our Lady of Perpetual Health. They had a terrific showing on Tuesday night for their preview night for their sale, as well as on Saturday. Me and my wife went, well, Tuesday and Saturday, and I gotta tell you, got some solid deals. I actually am looking at a couple of them right now, right here in the studio. One of them which I got and found a Showtime rotisserie barbecue. Ronco. That's a Ronco, folks. You know it's a good quality when it's a Ronco. You can do a whole chicken in an hour. It's the digital one. It came with the platform. It comes with the dip tray. It comes with the spokes. It works. It lights up. It's the digital one, so you can always set it and forget it. If you remember the 90s and the 2000s, Ron Popeil with the Showtime rotisserie, you set it and forget it. Love it. Love it. And then I also picked up a printer for the for our house. We're gonna keep it here in the studio, so I'll have notes and game pressers and everything like that. Well, I'll also get us to our credentials as well too. So again, I want to congratulate everybody at OLPH for the great sale. We got a few more sales going around town. You know, me and the wife love taking advantage of that. It's good to see. So again, congratulations to the volunteers. Also got to send a congratulations, of course, to all the fans that have come out and supported the Mud Hens over the last few weeks. Huge crowds yesterday and over the weekend. Got to give shout outs to that as well too. Congratulations also to our three major leaguers that are into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Jeff Kent, one of the big ones. Andrew Jones as well in there. It's huge deal. It's huge to see these guys go into the Baseball Hall of Fame. It's good to see. Now, again, we'll have a show on Thursday, and we'll have a show again on Sunday night to get you ready for this upcoming weekend to recap the weekend that was. So, as I'm in the studio right now, we're in the top of the ninth inning right now. The Yankees and the Phillies are playing right now. It's a blowout right now. The Phillies are all over the Yankees tonight, 11-4. Don Mattingly, the former Yankee himself, Bryce Harper, and Kyle Schwarber. I know our good friend Lucas is excited for this one tonight. A beatdown of the Yankees on national television. It's good to see that. You know, it's always good to see the Yankees lose. If you're a Yankee hater like myself, my wife, she's upset already. She turned the game off once it got past the 6-run mark. She said she was done. And strikeout. That's the ball game, and that's the final baseball game of on Sunday. The Phillies get the win 11-4 over the New York Yankees. But let's talk a little bit about the Tigers. The Tigers had a huge 4-game series with the Kansas City Royals this past weekend. And they, honestly, they played pretty well, but pardon my language, but they shit the bed a little bit against the Royals. The Royals are struggling this season so far. And it's just to see them flounder like they did. And the whole weekend celebrating the 125 years of Detroit Tiger baseball in the city of Detroit, and seeing, the reunion of some of the players for the 2016 that was there, it was good to see, but it just doesn't help the fact that you got to win these games, especially if you want to make a playoff run like you're trying to do. Earlier this week they went into Wrigley and they take 2 of 3 from the Cubs, but they split the series with the Royals. They win on Thursday night, win Friday night 2-1, and then they lose yesterday 3-2. Today, a bad loss, a 5-4 loss to the Royals today. So now they get up for a 3-game series with the Oakland Athletics. And if you're looking at the pitching matchup for against not Oakland, but against the Baltimore Orioles, and the Orioles are an easy team. They're 51-55. They're struggling as of late. You're going to go with Montero on the bump for tomorrow night's game. 6:40 first pitch at Comerica Park. He's Montero 7-5 with a 3.14 ERA. He'll take on Bradish, who is 7-9 with a 3.49 ERA. That first pitch is at 6:40. Tuesday will we see Troy Melton 5-1 with a 1.95 ERA for the Tigers. He'll take on Dean Kremer, who's 1-3 with a 5.06 ERA. He's got 34 strikeouts this year. Melton's got 55. And then on Wednesday, which could possibly be the last day that we see Terrence Skubal with the Detroit Tigers, he will pitch on Wednesday afternoon a 1:10 first pitch. He's 7-5 with a 2.70 ERA, 110 strikeouts this year. Trevor Rogers will go for Baltimore. He's 6-7 with a 4.17 ERA. And then the Tigers will then hit the road after that and travel out to Sacramento to take on the Sacramento A's for a 3-game series over the weekend. Now, if you look at it after that, it will be the Tigers will then play Oakland for that 3-game series, which will start Friday. They'll play Oakland for 3. And then after that, they will then continue the road trip. And let me see here really quickly where they go after the Oakland series. So they'll have Oakland in Sacramento on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Then they'll continue the road trip for a 3-game set against the Mariners, which will be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday in San Francisco to battle the Giants before a huge series. Again, I mentioned this last week. This is a huge series. After the next homestand is a huge homestand for the Tigers. 3 against the Guardians, and then 3 against the White Sox. If you're going to be in the playoff contention, you need to win these games going forward, especially this Baltimore series. And they need to step up to the plate and do that. If they can get that done, then there's a strong, strong possibility that the Tigers are still in it. Then after the Chicago series, they're in Pittsburgh for 3, and then in Kansas City for 3, and then a tough homestand after that. 3 against the Tampa Bay Rays, the division-leading AL East Tampa Bay Rays, and then the world champions come for a weekend. The Dodgers come to Comerica for a 3-game series, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Then they'll head to Minnesota for a 3-game series, and then in Cleveland for a 5 games in 4 days situation, where they'll be playing the Guardians they'll be playing 4 games in 3 days for that one. So there is that for you guys there. So again, big series for the Tigers. They'll have the Baltimore Orioles starting tomorrow night, 6:40 first pitch. Skubal's last start possibly for the Tigers will be on Wednesday, 1:10 first pitch for that one. Now, regarding of the Guardians went into Tampa Bay this past weekend. And let me just say this. After the strong performance that they put together this past week, and the fact that, you figured that, they could carry some of this momentum, and you figured that, you split with Minnesota. You beat the crap out of them on Monday night, 13-4. And you win 5-2 on Tuesday, but then you fall 10-6 on Wednesday, and then the concluding game of the series, you lose to the Twins 3-1. Then you go into Tampa Bay, who, again, like I mentioned, Tampa Bay, it's a very, very tough team this season, yet again, and you get swept by the Rays, losing 11-3 on Friday, losing 3-0 on Saturday, and today only getting 1-0 was the score. They got shut out in 2 consecutive games in the Trop as Tampa wore the Devil Ray jerseys tonight to this afternoon at Tropicana Field. So again, huge series going forward too. The Reds they are going to go to Cincinnati after this series, and it is the Battle of Ohio. This is a big series. Cincinnati is throw the record book out. You don't care about what your opponent is. This is a huge series for the Guardians. And it will be Shirley Cerrone on the bump for Cleveland, 4-7 with a 4.60 ERA. He'll take on Cincinnati's ace, Chase Burns, 12-1 with a 2.42 ERA, 7:10 first pitch tomorrow evening. Gavin Williams for the Guardians on Tuesday. He's 10-5 with a 3.78 ERA. He'll take on Brady Singer, who's 5-9 with a 4.53 ERA. With 88 strikeouts this season. By the way, Williams, 156 strikeouts this year. The concluding game of the series will see Cantello on the bump for the Guardians, 8-6 with a 4.02 ERA. He's got 116 strikeouts this year. He'll take on Rhett Lauer, who is 3-7 with a 5.61 ERA, 65 strikeouts for that. And then after that series, Cleveland then will return back to Progressive Field for a 3-game series with the Arizona Diamondbacks. Be the Diamondbacks for 3, and then that will turn the calendar over into August, which will be the 31st, 1st, and 2nd. And then they will then host the New York Mets in a big 3-game series. The Mets will be coming into Progressive Field. Then they'll head to the south side of Chicago for a 3-game series against the White Sox. And then 3 games against the Tigers in Comerica before they return back home for 3 against the Padres and 3 against the Giants. They'll hit the road for 3 against the Rockies, 3 against the Angels, and then they'll return home to end the month of August with 3 against the Kansas City Royals. And then with that being said, the Reds will be playing the Guardians, and we'll be covering this game all week for you right here on All Andy Alfred. I love the Battle of Ohio. It's a great rivalry between these two story franchises. I love watching the series. Now, in regards to the Reds are coming off of a big win today in extra innings over against the St. Louis Cardinals. I don't know why I'm struggling tonight. I don't know why. It's, maybe it's the heat. Maybe it's just the fact that we're late nights, 10 o'clock late night podcast. But the Reds taking 2 of 3 from the Cardinals this weekend, 4-2 on Friday. They lose 7-0 on Saturday afternoon, and then they lose to the win today against the Cardinals in extras, 5-3. Like I mentioned, 3 games against the Guardians, and then a huge series, a 4-game series with the Pittsburgh Pirates over the weekend, which will start that Thursday. And then it's a long homestand, 3 against the Guardians, 4 against the Pirates, and then 3 against Sacramento before they hit the road to play the Nationals for 3 and the White Sox for 3 games. They'll then play the Marlins for 3, 5 games against the Cardinals, and then 3 in Arizona, 3 in San Francisco, and then 3 in Chicago on the north side to battle the Cubbies before they play on August 31st against the Padres for a 3-game series, and that ends the month of August. With that all in mind, here's what the standings look like going into after today's play. The Chicago White Sox continue their run. They just got back on the winning horse. They're 6-4 in their last 10 in the American League last 10 games. They're 55-49, leading the division. The Guardians, with the 3-game sweep, are 1 game over 500 at 54-53, 2.5 games back out of the division race. They hold a wild card position. Now, Minnesota is 53-54, 3.5 games out of first place, and 1 game back in the wild card position. The Tigers sit right now at 50-56, 6 games out of first place, 3.5 games out of a wild card spot. So they still are in contention. They've lost their last 2 games. They're 6-4 in their last 10. If you look at their run differential, they're a plus 28. The White Sox are a plus 46. Everybody else in the division is in the minus, including the Royals, who are a minus 96. So there is that for you guys right there. The rest of the American League looks like this. Tampa is holding strong at 62-43, holding the top spot. The Yankees, with the loss tonight, fall to 59-45. They're 2.5 games out of the division. However, they're 6.5 games up in the wild card race. Boston 54-50. The winning streak goes to an end. They lose to Baltimore the other night. They're now 7.5 games out of first place, but they're a game and a half up in the wild card spot, 8-2 in their last 10 games. Baltimore is now 51-55 going into their series against Detroit. They're 11.5 games out of first place, 2.5 out of a wild card spot, and the Blue Jays 48-58, 14.5 games out of first place, 5.5 out of a wild card spot. Keep that in mind right there. Texas is holding strong in the American League West, 53-52. Can't believe 53-52 is leading the division in that one. Wow. Seattle 52-54. Game and a half out of a wild first place and a game and a half out of the wild card spot. Houston is 52-55. 2 games out of first place, 2 games out of a wild card spot. The Sacramento Athletics are 44-61, 9 games out of first place and 9 games out of the wild card spot. And the Angels are 11.5 games out of first place and 11.5 out of the wild card spot. They're 42-64. In the senior circuit, the Reds are in last place in the National League Central. They are 49-55, 16.5 games out of first place. However, they are 5 games out of a wild card spot, so keep that in mind. They're 6-4 in their last 10 games. St. Louis is now 53-52, 13 games out of first place, a game and a half out of a wild card spot. The Pirates are 54-52. They're 12.5 out, 1 game out of a wild card spot, but the Cubs hold the wild card spot plus 4.5, as the Cubs are 59-46, 7 games out of first place. The Brewers are running away with the division at 66-39 right now, 7-3 in their last 10. The Brewers are for real. If you look at the National League East, the Atlanta's holding the top spot at 62-43. Philadelphia, with their win tonight, goes to 56-49. 6 games out of first place and a game and a half up in the wild card race. They're 4-6 in their last 10. After they're now 5-5 in their last 10 games. The Nationals are 54-52, 8.5 games out of first place. Game out of a wild card spot. Miami 52-54, 10.5 out, 3 games out. I would not be surprised if Miami tries to make a run towards the end of the season, see if they get into a wild card spot. They're a very young, scrappy team. I keep an eye on Miami. I would keep an eye on Miami to see what happens with that. And the Mets are 44-62, 18.5 out, 11 games out of a wild card spot. The West is run by the Dodgers. They're 67-39. Arizona's 55-51, 12 games out of first place. They're holding a wild card spot. San Diego 53-53 at 500, 14 games out, 2 games in a wild card spot. They're 5-5 in their last 10. San Francisco is 44-61, 22.5 games out, 10.5 out of a wild card spot. And the Rockies are 42-65, 25.5 games out of first place, 13.5 out of a wild card spot. That's what the Major League Baseball looks like. Again, the trade deadline is scheduled for Thursday. 3 p.m. is the cutoff time for that one. Really quickly, I'm going to pull it up really quickly. Want to get what's going to be happening on that Thursday and who's playing and what time on Thursday. Let's see, pull it up really quickly. Games around the league again today. Arizona fell to the Nationals 10-7. The Pirates beat up on the Cubs 8-7. You had the Red Sox get a 6-1 win over the Blue Jays. Padres took on the Marlins and beat them 5-3. The Dodgers fall to the Mets 8-3. Kansas City beat Detroit 5-4. Atlanta, a 3-2 win over the Orioles in 11 innings. The White Sox continue to run 12-3 over the Astros at the Rate Field. They are for real. I'm not going to stop them. Not going to stop them on that part. Not going to stop them right now. And the question is, if it is for real, if the White Sox are for real, as I spilled a little water here, excuse me, wipe myself off. I mean, after all, it was a pathetic playoff performance. Angels beat the Giants 4-3. And by the way, like I said, can the White Sox hold on? That's my big thing. Can they hold on? That's the question. That is the true question. But on Thursday, which is trade deadline day, which will be the 30th of July, the games on that day will be as follows. A lot of afternoon baseball. It's a big getaway day. White Sox are hosting the Yankees. That'll be interesting. Cubs are at the Cardinals. Royals are in Minnesota, just battled the Twins. Tampa's hosting the Rangers. The first game against the Pirates and the Reds. Boston is in Sacramento to battle the Athletics. Seattle is in LA to battle the Dodgers. Giants and Padres, that's a rivalry matchup right there. The same with Nationals and Braves and Marlins and Mets. Everybody in that division is going to be playing each other that week. That's going to be very, very interesting. Very, very interesting to say the least. So there's what that schedule looks like. Now, really quickly, I want to dive into the Mud Hens really quickly. The Mud Hens had a huge series with Louisville this past weekend, and they took 5 of 6 over the Bats, winning on Tuesday 5-1, falling on Wednesday 9-0. They beat the pants off the Bats 13-3 on Thursday, 7-2 win on Harry Potter night on Friday night. Louisville puts up a fight on Saturday, but the Hens were better. They win 9-4 on Saturday, and tonight a 10-2 win over the Bats. Now the Mud Hens will hit the road for a 6-game road trip that will see them in the capital city of Columbus, Ohio, as they will be at Huntington Park to take on the Clippers for a 6-game series. Then they'll head back home for a 6-game series against the Omaha Storm Chasers before heading to Louisville for 6, and then they're in Iowa for 6 games. And by the way, the 22nd of August, they will be honoring the 2006 championship team that night. That's what we are told. Really quickly, I want to pull it up really quickly. This is 20 years of the team since the last championship given away, and they are giving away a replica pennant for the first 1,500 fans through the turnstiles that Saturday night on the 22nd, and of course fireworks that night as well. There will be pennant giveaway. We'll be honoring the 2006 team that went back-to-back for Governor's Cups. I was there for those games. I was 16 years old. I know exactly where I was sitting for that series. And I know who I was sitting with. I was sitting with my good friend, my mom's good friend, Joe Hatfield, Tree Hatfield, and myself. We were all at the game watching this one and seeing the championship moment. And I remember Jack Hanahan spraying me with champagne. That was my first taste of championship champagne. Haven't tasted since. And then a 6-game series with St. Paul, and then we get into September, which is a light schedule for the Mud Hens, as they will then hit the road after that. They'll come back home in September. 6 games against Indianapolis, 6 games in Iowa, and then they'll finish the season with 6 games against the Louisville Bats. So there is that for you guys. That's all the baseball talk for you guys tonight right here on All Andy Alfred, as you're listening and watching All Andy Alfred tonight right here on the All Andy Alfred Podcast Network, whether it be on Apple Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Bleaker, however you are listening to us, wherever and whenever you're listening to us. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast tonight. We have a new champion for the 3M championship, as well as a champion that has not done it in a while in the Scottish Open for the women. But before I continue on, I want to talk about my good friends down at the Libby Factory Outlet Store in the Warehouse District in downtown Toledo, of course, at 205 South Erie Street. It is time, my friends. Fall has arrived at the Libby Factory Outlet Store. The glass pumpkins have arrived. Come in and get all your fall decor items as well as all your football party needs, whether it be for football towels. We have wind spinners with all the NFL teams from the Lions to the Bills to the Bears to the Browns. You name it, we have those wind spinners to show off your team on your front porch to get you ready for the season, as well as all your fall stuff, whether it be their fall stemless wine glasses or your leaf coolers. The Libby Factory Outlet is the store for you. We are open 7 days a week, Monday through Friday, 9:30 in the morning until 5:30 in the evening. On Saturday, we're open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And you'll usually see me in there most days of the week. So remember, it's Libby, Libby, Libby on the label. And remember, Libby Factory Outlet, set your table right. We have a new champion now in the PGA Tour, a 21-year-old kid by the name of Jackson Culver. 21 years old, and this kid had one hell of a round this weekend in Minnesota. He finishes 25 under par for the tournament, his first career PGA champion. Listen to these rounds. He shot a 64 in his first round, a 68 in his second round. In the third round, he shot a 61. He was on the verge of a 59. And a 66 in round 4 for a total of 254. He wins $1.5 million in this tournament. He went bogey-free in the fourth round, birdieing 16, 12, 6, 4, and his first hole to get to 25 under par and to win the 3M Open. And Scotty Scheffler made a run. He finishes in second place. Scheffler 22 under par. Hideki Matsuyama tied for third with Brian Harman, as well as McCarthy, Phillips, and Phillips at 20 under par. Thompson and El Grillo is at 19 under par. They finished tied for 7th. Gary Woodland finishes tied for 10th at 17 under par. Same with Power and Kim. Billy Horschel, 16 under par, tied for 13th in his round today. Let's get you some other notables for you guys here as well. Roy tied for 31st at 12 under par. Joaquin Niemann, 11 under par, tied for 34th. Corey Connors, 10 under par, tied for 39th. Let's see. Hughes tied for 44th at 9 under par for his round. Let's see here. A couple more for you guys. Players that miss the cut. I always like to make mention of this for you guys. Make mention of the cut if you had any bets out there for you guys. Tony Finau missed the cut. Unfortunately, let's see here. Pendrith misses the cut. Max Homa misses the cut. A lot of big names missing the cut on that one. But again, this kid, Jackson Colvin, 21 years old, born May 23rd, 2005 in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, went to Auburn, finishes first at 25 under par, and wins the 3M Open. As PGA Tour is in full swing, of course. And the women were over in Scotland this past weekend. I want to talk about that really quickly. This tournament was interesting. It is a links course, of course. Not a lot of the big names were playing in this tournament, and I want to give a few shout out, but it was Jenny Shin from South Korea. She wins wins the Scottish Open. It is her first LPGA championship since 2016, over 10 years since she won the last round. She finishes 9 under par for the round. She shot 67, 66, 71, and a 75 to win the round. Hailey Kim finishes in second at 7 under par. Patty Addercan finishes 5 under par as well. Lauren Conklin tied for 5th with Yashida at 3 under par. Jadasi Wasayan 2 under par, finishes 7th. Leona McGuire, Ryan O'Toole as well, finishing 1 under par, tied for 8th. Jennifer Lopez Ramirez, even par. Patty Tedeveticut, 1 over par. Nelly Corder finishes 2 over par for the tournament. She shot a combined 72, 76, 73, and a 69 for 290 in total. And the payout for her, she gets $31,600 because she tied for 16th with Haju Kim at 16th place. You also have, Stark at 3 over par, tied for 19th. Rose Zhang, 4 over par, tied for 25th as well. Doherty, 7 over par, tied for 37th. Allison Corpus, 8 over par, 41st place. Charlie Hall finishes 10 over par, tied for 44th. She was a mess in round 1. I got to tell you, she was a mess in round 1. She shot a 78 in the first round, 71 in round 2, 75 and 74. She finishes 10 over par with Lindy Duncan as well as Peno as well as Weber, all tied for 44th in that round. Nasa Hadaoka, 12 over par for 54th place. Hajin Choi, 14 over par, tied for 56th. It was a tough course. This course was tough. A lot of missed cuts in this one. Lee misses the cut. Let's mention here, Carolyn Segunda misses the cut. Christine Penderson misses the cut. Jody Eno Standoff misses the cut. Let's see here, a couple of other ones. Yama Dryberg misses the cut. From Scotland misses the cut. And we got a couple more for you here. And 2 players withdrew from the tournament as well. But the ISPS handout win the Scottish Open goes to Jenny Shin, finishing 9 under par for the round. Now the ladies will head over for the AIG Women's Open. This will be taking place in Lancashire at the Royal Antrim at St. Anne's Golf Course. It will be a star-studded event for that. They'll have the AIG Women's Open, and then they'll head back over to Portland for the Portland Classic. Then they'll head to Canada for the KC Women's Open. And then they'll have the FM Champion, and then the Solheim Cup. And that'll be it. And that'll be it for the season. That'll be it truly for the fully for the season. You have a few other tournaments, of course, the Arkansas Championship, the Lottie Championship, but the big one, of course, at the end is the CE Group Tour Championship, which will be November 19th to the 22nd. We're going to cover it all for you guys right here, especially with the Women's Open, which will happen this weekend as well, too. So that is all our golf coverage for you. By the way, I got a chance to play Thursday at Bedford Hills, up at the golf course at Bedford Hills. Great course. The superintendent there is fantastic. It was so accommodating. I got to play Rocket and Buckeye. Play 18. It took me about my tee time was at 12:52. I was done about 4 o'clock. I got held up a couple times, but it was not bad at all. I did not shoot very well. I shot about, I'll admit it, I shot 100, and I was very, very sad with myself. But I did par the final 2 holes. I parred 16 and 17, got up to 18, had a chance to par, and I bogeyed it to finish my round, and I was mad with myself. I got frustrated on the front half of that Rocket course. I felt like I could have done a lot better, especially at 8 or that long par 5. But I just, I played a little too conservatively, And as a golfer, you always think to yourself, if you play conservatively, how many golf balls are you going to lose in your round? I lost 4, but I gained 2, so I really lost 2. And I'm not going to complain about it. I'm not going to really complain about it all that much. So there is that for you guys. As our golf coverage is brought to you by my good friends at Scramble Stick Golf. Scramble Stick Golf. You know, I used my scramble stick when I was on the course on Thursday to pick up my ball a couple times because I always played a provisional shot. If I had to play a provisional shot, I use my scramble stick. I have it attached to my front strut on my cart, and I attach it. It's all made in the USA. All made in the USA. Go to scramblestickgolf.com for more information and order yourself a scramble stick. Look it up on Amazon. You know, there's a lot of imitators, and there's a lot of companies that also are using the scramble stick name. Always buy from Scramble Stick Golf. Always buy from Scramble Stick Clip. Always buy from them because those products are made in the USA. They are made in the USA. So there is that for you guys as well. So we are now less than 4 Saturdays away from the start of college football. I'm excited. I'm excited as ever. So, Bowling Green, the Mid-American Conference, came out and they had their media day this past week at Ford Field. They have Bowling Green finishing 6th in the conference, towards the bottom. I look at it this way. There's a lot of strong possibilities to pull an upset. I like what we're seeing here. I like what I'm seeing. The depth is for real. There. I think Eddie's got the right mindset with this team. They have to be a lot disciplined from what it was from last year to this year. Of course, he got in late. They won their 3 of their first 4 games of the season, and then the injuries come into play. But the fact is this. These games going forward are going to be huge. Absolutely huge in this program. It's now Eddie's team fully. It's fully Eddie's team. This is his time to shine. It's time for this community to come together, and it's time to see if this team is for real. And I think they are. I'm gonna look at the schedule. You look at the schedule. They'll open up with Tarrant State, Division II college, noon kickoff on the 5th of September. If I track that, that's a win. Then they go to Big Red to take on Nebraska. Saturday night in Nebraska, that's a loss. I have to say it's a loss. Then Saturday, noon, the 19th, they travel to Iowa State to take on the Hawkeyes. That could be a win because it's a new coach. And there's a strong possibility that, Bowling Green could pull the upset. Homecoming is the 26th of September. They play the South Florida Bulls at Dwight Perry Stadium. Huge matchup. Brian Hartline is now the new coach at South Florida. It's Hartline versus George. They have not yet named the time for that game yet. I'm going to say it's going to be a 3:30 kick for that. That's a huge one there. So make a note of that. I think that could be a win for Bowling Green there. Could be a win there. And it could be a win for Iowa State. So they could be 3-1 to start the season. Now, here's where it gets difficult. Miami, Ohio is rebuilt. They're going to be a strong force. They're going to play Bowling Green on the 3rd of October. That's a tough matchup. I'm going to give Miami the win there. But they welcome in Sacramento State University, the first year Sacramento State. It's in the Mid-American Conference. I'm going to say Bowling Green beats Sacramento State in that round. Ball State then comes to Bowling Green. That's going to be I think it's a win for Bowling Green there. Bowling Green then travels to Buffalo to take on the Bulls. I think that how Buffalo was built last year, and Bowling Green had the opportunities to win that game at the end of the season. I think you give the edge to Buffalo a little bit. I say Buffalo gets a win there. They go to Western Michigan, tough matchup in Kalamazoo. I gotta give it to Western Michigan in that one. So there's a 2-game loss there. They come back home to play Kent State. I think that's a win there. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wins there. That gets them bowl eligible. And then the 20th of November, Friday night in T-Town against Toledo. Last time this had happened, the final year of Scott Leffler, they went into the Glass Bowl and shellacked Toledo. Put belt to ass to the Rockets. That was when they had Harold Fannin. That's when. Now, it's a late game season. It is going to be cold. It's going to be. We'll see what this team will look like. This team's going to look totally different. Will they be able to compete with Toledo? Remember, Toledo. This is Mark Jacobs' first year. He's got the quote unquote Player of the Year. Hold your horses. I'm going to keep saying it. Brown and orange will survive and will win. So there's that. And then Bowling Green then hosts UMass for the final game of the season. I think that's a win there. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wins. I see 8-4 record. One loss. The loss to Nebraska, loss to Miami of Ohio, which would be a big one, and then losses to Buffalo and Western Michigan. And the final 3 games of the year to beat Toledo and UMass in that round. Now, Ohio State, their schedule was released. They're going to play probably one of the. I'll give one game is going to be the tough one for them, and that's going to be at Texas in week 2. They play Ball State. That's a win. They go to Texas. That's a tough game. But I think Ohio State can win that game. I think I'll take Ohio State to beat Texas. I think they play Kent State. That's a win. They'll play Illinois. That's going to be a tough one for them. I think they can pull that win off there. They go to Iowa. Iowa's always been a tough matchup for Ohio State. I think they win there. Maryland at home. That's a win. They played the defending national champions Indiana at Indiana. I figure that's going to probably be the primetime game on CBS or on Fox. That could be the noon kickoff there. I think that's a win for Indiana. I think that's the slip up for Ohio State there. Because Cincinnati will have his guys ready to go for that one. I think he'll have them ready to go. USC hosts at USC. Ohio State travels across the country. I think Ohio State is going to win there. Oregon comes to Ohio State. That's a tough matchup. I give the edge to. Do I trust Dan Lanning? I don't trust Dan Lanning. I'm going to go with Ohio State. Northwestern comes to Ohio State. I think Ohio State wins there. They go at Nebraska. We don't know what the Nebraska team will look like by then. They'll win that one, and then they'll play Michigan at the Shoe. I will take Ohio State in that one. So there's a couple for that, and of course Notre Dame. I think they're going to probably run the table. Wisconsin versus Notre Dame at Lambeau. I give it Notre Dame. They'll beat Rice. They'll beat Michigan State. They'll beat Purdue. They'll beat North Carolina. Stanford might be the tough test for them. I think they might win. They'll win that one. They'll go to BYU, which is a tough game. If that game is going to be a night game, that's going to be tough. I think Notre Dame can win that game. They'll play the Navy. They'll win against Navy. The big one is November 7th. If Notre Dame is for real, they'll play Miami prime time, 7:30 kickoff for that one. I think they could win that one. Boston at home against Boston College. That's a win. at SMU. That's at home against SMU. That's a win on senior night. And then Syracuse on the road in the Dome. I think that's a win. So I think they go 12-0. I think they get into the college football playoff. I really think they do. I really do. So there's my college. The college schedule. We'll talk more and more in depth, and you'll get my reaction to it as we get closer and closer to the season. So there's that for you guys tonight. Really quickly, Jet Greaves, 3-year deal worth $15 million for the Blue Jackets. A big signing for them. And Sillinger gets a 3-year contract as well, too. Sillinger's contract, a 3-year deal. I want to get the number correctly right for you guys. 3 years, $13.85 million. They sell out for arbitration. The Jackets only wanted 2 years. Jet wanted 5. They compromised at 3. He gets the pay that he deserves. And that's what he deserves. Absolutely what he deserves on that one. So I'm not going to complain with that. Another big news story out of this week was, of course, Patrick Kane leaving the Red Wings. He goes back to Chicago to play with the Hawks. It's a huge deal. Would it be something, though, if Jonathan Toews comes out of retirement and signs with the Hawks and get the band back together? I know a few people would be excited for that. A lot of people would be signed for that. And what got me, too, is Don Granato, the former Columbus Chill player, who was also a part of the Buffalo organization, has still not been signed in a coaching role for the Blue Jackets under Rick Bowness. We haven't heard what his staff is going to look like this season. They made some changes. They made some moves in the offseason. What's his staff going to look like come the beginning of the season? We don't know. But there is talk that Kirill Marchenko is going to get moved. Aaron Porchline from the Athletic was reporting a deal is imminent with him. They haven't announced the teams yet, but they did talk to Marchenko today over a phone call over the weekend. So it looks like he's going to get moved. I want to say it, and I'm going to say it on this airways. Why can't we get Dylan Larkin? Why can't the Jackets get Dylan Larkin? Now, Marchenko for Larkin would be a good pickup. Plus, we have to throw in a couple of incentives, and Detroit would have to throw a couple of incentives. If that was the case, then look at it this way. You would then have Larkin and Werenski, who are teammates with each other at Team USA and at Michigan together. Why not? We know that Werenski's going to probably re-sign with Columbus now because Jenner's gone. You're going to give him the C, and you're going to play nice for him. And I think it's the right way to do it. If you get Larkin to Columbus, it would be huge. So Don, get it done. Get some deals done. We got to close the gap, and we got to win this division, especially now how this division is looking now. Washington's retooled. You've got the defending champions in Carolina there. If you're gonna make a run, how close we were last year, we need that one extra piece, and I think Dylan Larkin could get us over the hump with that. So please, for the love of God, make some deals and get this team over the hump. Please. And by the way, the NHL, they announced that they're taking over a lot of coverages, and the jacket coverage is going to be one of them. So my question is this. Is this going to mean that I have to buy a Blue Jacket package now instead of getting the ESPN Plus package? Because I like watching ESPN Plus with my hockey games. If I get the NHL package, if I have to buy the NHL package, will I get Columbus commercials in my package? That's what I want. I want to see the Skyline commercials. I want to see the Donato's pizzas. I want to see the Huntington Bank commercials. I want to see the Toyotas commercials and the I-90 stunts, and I want to see those commercials. If it comes to that, can we get the local commercials into that? Plain and simple. Plain and simple. But it's not just the Jackets. They're going to take over. The NHL is taking over operations for Carolina, Minnesota, and St. Louis, as well as Columbus, because of the whole program. And remember, Detroit's got their own sports network now with the Tigers and the Red Wings. You have to have both. You have to have that package to watch both of them now. Which leaves the question: where are the Pistons going to go? Where are you going to get your Lions coverage? Just saying. Posing that question out there. So there is that for you. Covered most of everything I wanted to talk about tonight. So it's as you're watching and listening to All Andy Alfred tonight right here on the All Andy Alfred Podcast Network, whether it be on Apple Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Bleaker, however you're listening to us, wherever and whenever you're listening to us. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember to like and subscribe our podcast. It's now time for Andy Rants tonight, and I want to talk about what we heard and what we found out on Thursday. Is that it was announced Thursday that the XRHL, the Extreme Roller Hockey League, that was scheduled to start on the 31st of July, folded. Lack of cash flow coming in. And I'm going to tell you, folks, I'm going to tell you this straight up. I told you this last week on Sunday's program. It wasn't gonna fly. And I think they finally came to the realization that with sponsorships low, with the amount of money, season tickets, they only had 23 season tickets sold. They only had 34 commitments to sponsorships. You can't do that. And again, I will say it again. You can have roller hockey going on in the city of Toledo when you're running it opposite to Mud Hen games, opposite to Cedar Point, opposite to, Party in the Parks, opposite to, everything that's happening over the summer. You can't compete with that. Do you want to sit in a building and watch guys rolling around on concrete, checking and hitting, and rolling around on concrete and putting the puck in the back of the net, when a lot of these guys are going to be getting ready at the same time for training camps and for tryouts for the season to start in the East Coast League, in the USHL, in the federal leagues, and in the OHL and the CHL. A lot of these guys are going to be good and ready for the season to start. And you're going to start the season on the 31st of July and go 6 weeks with it. That was a fail miss. Number 2 fail miss was that you're selling the tickets through Ticketmaster. People do not want to buy tickets through Ticketmaster because of the fees. Now, I heard that people that they could go to the box office and buy it and not get to pay the fees. You're still going to pay the fee no matter what because you're buying it through the Ticketmaster app or the Ticketmaster window. So that's another thing that was gonna be a failure. Number 2. And number 3, we didn't hear anything about coaches. We only heard about one player signing, which was Brandon Hawkins, which, by the way, I think, Hawkins re-signing with the Walleye this year. This has got to be his last year. It has to be. I love the guy. He's a great player, a great person, great for the community and everything like that. But at some point, you got to make the call. And you got to make the move. You either got to throw in the towel or, step behind the bench. I hate to be that person. Hate to say it, but he was the only player that we knew that was committed to playing for the team, and so for this organization. And again, it fails. And yet again, it failed. This failed. You had the arena football team that defunct. That did not take off. That failed. You had the failure. I'm gonna say it. We haven't heard anything ever since about the Glass City Wranglers. They couldn't fill the Glass City Center for games. That's a third. Number 4, you couldn't bring in. They're struggling right now, and I have friends that are season ticket holders. They are struggling right now for the soccer team that plays over at University of Toledo. They are struggling getting fans in the stands. That's another one. So again, you're competing. All these teams that are struggling or defunct is because they're not following the momentum of one-hand baseball and Toledo walleye hockey. And what that is, name, ownership, and representation. I just wish, you think about it. The method that happened in Columbus wasn't going to be the method that's going to happen here. And I'm talking about how the Columbus Chill came into existence. They weren't talking about hockey in the first place, and then it came upon about the game. So, another failed attempt. What are we going to do? But, I was going to go to the games. I would have gone to opening night, but I wouldn't go to any other games. So there's that. So good riddance to bad rubbish. So that's going to wrap it up for all Andy Alfred tonight. And I want to say this. We got hoodwinked again by the piece of dirt named by LeBron James. I don't talk NBA in this podcast. I don't like talking about basketball. I'm not a big basketball fan. I like the March Madness and college basketball. But the NBA, I just can't stand it because I can't stand him. It's all a bunch of prima donnas that flop, that beg for calls, that shoot more threes, that don't play defense, that, I grew up watching Larry Bird. I grew up watching the solid defensive front players of Bill Laimbeer and Charles Barkley and all these strong guys that would sit in the paint and get points. Now I'm seeing Steph Curry. I'm seeing LeBron James. I'm seeing Giannis. I can't stand the NBA. That's why I don't talk about the NBA. I'll watch a few NBA games, and I like watching a little of the WNBA games, especially Sophie Cunningham. She's absolutely fantastic. I love Sophie. I love Caitlin Clark. I can't stand Angel Reese. She looks like the damn sloth from Ice Age. I said that. But I can't stand LeBron James. He comes back to Cleveland, wins the championship. We treat him like he's the king, like he's supposed to be. And what does he do? He leaves to go to the Lakers. And we knew that he was going to go to the Lakers. We knew that. But the thing is this. Why give Cleveland hope that you're coming back? Why give us hope that you're coming back? That's why I'm going to say this, and I don't like cursing on my podcast, but fuck LeBron. And fuck the NBA. I don't like the NBA. I just don't. And he's such a prima donna that I can't stand him. He was terrible in the movie Trainwreck. Terrible in Space Jam. He thinks he has an acting career. His acting career is about as fake as his hairline right now. And the way that he just duped Cleveland yet again, built the hopes up of the city, of the franchise, and then what he could help out that young team. And he goes to Philadelphia to chase a ring, to get paid only $8 million. Pardon my language, that's a fucking joke. That's a fucking joke. A 2-year deal worth $8 million. He made $52.3 million last year with the Lakers. 52.3, and you're gonna make only $8 million with the 76ers. You're gonna play with Embiid and the rest of those clowns. You think you're gonna be in the new world order? You think you're Hulk Hogan? No. You're just Terry Valeno. Joke. Honest to God, joke. So again, fuck LeBron. He's a piece of dirt. Like my good friend Bruce Strennan used to say, he's a piece of dirt. Let me repeat. Piece of dirt. That's what LeBron is. I'll support the WNBA. I will support college basketball, high school basketball. Hell, the kids that play at East Toledo Family Center or at the YMCA, I'll support them before I support the National Basketball Association. You ever see me watch an NBA game or go to an NBA game? No. I'd rather go to a hockey game. I'd rather go to a baseball game. I'd rather go to a high school basketball game. I'd rather go to watch the kid a BG football, basketball and football game and hockey game. I'd rather watch that than watch the NBA. If I want to see more flopping, I watch my cat upstairs flopping around on the bed. Plain and simple. Love you, Puck. It's ridiculous. So, fuck LeBron. And, and Stephen A. Smith, who likes to kiss his ass. And Doggy, who, I agree with Skip Bayless, though. He is the ninth best basketball player in the world. If you have, for me, LeBron's ninth, for me. For me, it's Michael, it's Kareem, it's Russell, it's Bird, it's Shaq, Kobe at 6, okay? Wade at 7, because he stayed with the Heat for the longest period of time. Kevin Garnett, LeBron James, Tim Duncan. That's my list. Top 10. All time. I would even throw Steve Nash in there. I would throw in Paul Pierce. I mean, you know what? My apologies. Michael, Magic, Kareem, Russell, Bird, Isaiah Thomas, Shaq, Kobe, Wade, LeBron. LeBron's 10. That's my list all time. Growing up, and then Lambeer would be solid at number 11. But again, that's my top 10. And you put Lambeer right there at 11. So fuck LeBron. Get me going on a Sunday night, late night. But that is all the time I have for you tonight. We will be back on the air Thursday for another edition of All Andy Alfred. We'll be taping it Thursday, getting you set up. and recapping the Battle of the Ohio Cup between the Guardians and the Reds, as well as the big series for the Tigers. And it'll be counting down to the trade deadline. We'll keep you posted right on our Facebook, as well as on our Twitter account, as well as on YouTube for updates regarding the MLB trade deadline. Also, what's happening on the golf course as the British Open for the ladies will be taking place starting on Thursday, starting at 4 a.m. We'll have that. We'll have the first day coverage for that on the podcast on Thursday as well. Dive more into the jacket situation, as well as diving more into the college and more into college football, and diving into the NFL as training camps begin this week in the National Football League. So that's all the time I have for you guys tonight right here on All Andy Alfred. I hope you enjoyed the show. Remember, like and subscribe our podcast. And as always, remember, I'm pulling for you. We're all in this together. The game of life. Keep your stick on the ice. And to the teams you root for at home. And to my teams, go Jackets! Go Walleye! Go Tigers! Go Guardians! Go Reds! And go Hens! And more birdies and less bogeys. Because victory is sweetest when you have tasted defeat. Have a great night and a great week, everybody. I'll talk to you Thursday for another edition of All Andy Alfred. Love you. Stay cool and stay safe.